Okay, today we're going to show you how to replace a storeroom function IC cord lever lock set with a direct replacement. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get the door open so you can get to the lock on the back side. So we're going to look for our master key. We're going to open the door, and then you need a little pokey tool for this little hole right here. This is what holds the lever on. So we want to slide this lever off so we can get to the screws on the inside. So we're going to get our little pokey tool here, and we're going to stick it in there. You're going to feel a little spring tension, so you just push it all the way in, and then hopefully the lever will slide off. Then remove the tool and then slide the lever off completely. So we're going to set that down. Just put that over there. And then to get this rosette off, you got to twist it counterclockwise until it comes loose, and then pull it off. And then you're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver for this lock here. So we get our Phillips head, move the two screws up here. Move this one. Pull this spring pack off. And then you want to remove the through bolt screws for the lock body. This is actually what makes the lock body tight to the door. Remove these. Just be careful when you remove them because gravity will want to make the lock body fall off the other side of the door. You don't want to damage any tiles or anything like that. So usually I hold it in place. Oh, still got to loosen it a little bit more. Okay, and then this one didn't want to move. So pull the lock off completely. Now one thing I want to point out, sometimes we don't replace the latches. Reason being is, it might be prepped for this type of door. This looks like a 2 3/8 back set. I'm going to show you why sometimes we leave the existing latches in, but we're going to pull this off for right now. Again, you don't want to drill these screws in when you're putting the new lock on. Only reason being is you don't want to strip out the wood and make it so the latch is loose. So you want to make sure that you do it with a screwdriver. Same with putting the through bolt screws in. Now the lock I'm replacing it with is a Parker storeroom lever lock set. It also accepts an interchangeable core. Now before you start, you want to take the old core out of the lever lock set. Check with the store manager rather. Make sure that they have the control key on site. If they don't, then you're gonna have to drill the cylinder out, or you can leave the lock with the store and then have somebody from their loss prevention come out, remove the cylinder, but you're gonna have to supply them with a temporary cylinder for the time being, because otherwise, you're gonna put a new lock in and you make sure the tailpiece comes out, and it's just gonna be a hole like that in the door if you don't put any cylinder in, and they'll have to use a screwdriver into that little slotted hole right there to unlock the door, which doesn't make any sense. So always give them a temporary core if they don't have a control key on site. So we're gonna keep that tailpiece over there. We're not gonna reuse it. I'm gonna show you why that you never reuse tailpieces. Always do the one that comes with the lock. So the strike, this right here is not the same size strike, so you can leave the original strike on. That's no problem as long as the latch from the side of the door goes inside the hole here, nice and centered, then you shouldn't have any problems. A strike is a strike. So we'll set that aside with the old lock. Oh, that's old. Reuse that. So the lock comes pre-assembled. You got to take the inside handle off, so we're going to do the same thing we did when it was on the door. Slide that off. Now, it's good practice to put the old lock inside the box immediately, so none of the parts get confused with each other. We'll throw all that in there. Now this latch is not the same size, so I'm going to show you what happens if you put this latch in. If you put this latch in like this, if you look at the side of the door, you're not going to be able to slide the lever lock set through the door. So this is a 2 3/4 back set latch. This one right here is 2 3/8 back set. So we're going to have to use the old latch, which the latch still works, still got a lot of spring life in it, so it's okay to reuse that. So we're going to put this in the box of parts, close that up, don't get anything confused. Put that screw in there. These screws, we'll just use new screws. dump all the screws out right here. This is everything you're going to need to put the lock on the door. So we'll set that old lock aside. There's trash for it. Now the first thing you want to do is put that latch in, which the latch is already there. So we're just going to put the screws in. Now the latch only goes one way. Whatever way the door closes, that's where it has to hit, just like that. Now if you put it this way, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to retract and go inside and then lock the door. You have to use the handle and hold it down and then push the latch in, and it just doesn't work that way. It's supposed to go, the flat tapered edge right here goes to the beveled edge right there. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. Put these screws in. Like I said, don't use a drill because you don't want to strip those holes out. If the holes ever do get stripped, you can put bigger screws in, but the head of the screw might actually hit against the strike and cause scraping issues. So what you can do is you can take little pieces of cardboard and shove it inside each hole, or you can use matchsticks. That's actually a locksmith favorite. Just use like one little matchstick and toss it in there, and then tighten the screws up after you put the latch on. You don't want to put too much cardboard or matchsticks in there because it will end up splitting the door right here, and then it'll pretty much make the lock useless. I mean, you'll have to put a dress-up kit or a wraparound kit on the door to fix that damage, and that's the only way around it. So we got our latch on. You want to always do this with the door closed, door open rather. I'm sorry. So then you slide the lock on, and it's gotta go just like that. Sometimes you gotta push the latch in so it goes on, but it's nice and flush with the door like that. So that's good. Next we need, just pull that apart. We need our little mounting plate. Goes on just like that. And then we take our through bolt screws, which there's one of them. I don't know where the other one went. So we'll have to go back into the box and grab a different one. It should be the same mounting screws. I might have thrown an extra one in there. Yeah, the screws are the same. They're the exact same, so it's not going to have a problem. I usually start it off by hand. I hold the lock set on the other side of the door nice and tight. Once you get one of them pretty tight, you don't have to hold the lock anymore. You don't want to over tighten these. Reason being is you might cause the lock to bind. It'll either make the latch stick in and stay in all the time, or one of the handles will sag down and won't spring back up. So you don't want to make sure it's too tight, but you want to make sure it's tight enough where it's not going to come loose in about 6 months. So next thing we want to do is put our spring pack on. It only goes one way. The little extrusion right here goes into this notch right here. So you can't, it's pretty much idiot proof. You can't put it on backwards. If you do try to put it on backwards, you're going to have problems trying to get the lever set on and this actually staying in place. So we put the 2 screws in right here, and this will hold the spring pack to the lock body plate. Again, you don't want to over tighten because you will bind up, because this is the spring pack. This is actually what will make the lock bind up, so you just want to go pretty much one extra turn. And then we put the handle on. Nope, we don't put the handle on, I'm sorry. Put the rosette on first. Little dot right here goes right in this little slot, and then you turn it until it doesn't turn anymore, and now it's not going to come off. You have to put the handle on, test the latch, make sure it works. Now before you close the door, you got to put the core in. So we've got our control key right here with our core. Now there's 2 tail pieces that come with this lock. Oh, these screws are the extra screws for the door strikes, so you don't need those. So the 2 tail pieces that come with the door lock are a 7-pin and a 6-pin. Now you can actually see the difference in them. One's actually longer than the other one. Now this lock right here is a 6-pin core. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chambers. Now you want to make sure you put the 6-pin tailpiece on versus the 7-pin tailpiece. I'm going to show you what happens if you put the 7-pin tailpiece on with this 6-pin core. Install it in there, turn it, and then we get our master key. Now when you turn this, key with a 6-pin cylinder, it's going to spin completely and it's not going to rotate this latch. Now the reason being is because the tailpiece is not the right size. So the back of the tailpiece is not sticking inside the lock set body and it's not retracting the latch like it's supposed to. So we pull out the cylinder, swap the tailpiece with the 6-pin one, which you can see 6-pin right there. It's a little stubborn one. There we go. Retract it, put it in, and we try the master key. Try it a few times, now it's retracting like it should be. So that's very important. If you're ever replacing a lever lock set, don't reuse the tailpiece from the old lock set. The lock set might not accept the old tailpiece. It might actually be machined a little bit differently and then cause it to spin around even if it is the right size. So just make sure you always put the correct tailpiece in. So now that we know that this is actually working, we can close the door, make sure everything lines up with the strike, and we're pretty much done. So one thing I do when I close the door, I just make sure that the master key works and opens the door. So anyways, that's pretty much how to replace a lever lock set with a storeroom function IC core prep. Anyways, thank you.